I finished college last year in the fall. I'm a fully registered nurse now, which felt like it took forever to complete the courses. I'm not too interested in the education system, but figured I would secure a career in nursing, which I could work before I decide to start my own business. Instead of applying for a local hospital, I got a job at a luxury senior home that has over 50 senior citizens living here. It's a very nice place. We have a full team of cleaning workers, maybe around 12 people, along with a luxurious living area including jacuzzis which give therapy lessons to any senior citizen who wants them. We have a full team of nurses and 2 doctors in the daytime. Then I clock in with just 2 other nurses to cover the night shift. Some of the elderly citizens need assistance to get in bed, and we have a special housing area with ramps for the seniors that require wheelchairs. The wheelchair area requires us to push them since they have to go through a gravel area uphill, which most citizens don't have the strength to push themselves through. I've submitted a request to have this area designed better, which would allow wheelchairs to freely move up and down the area without us nurses having to push them. As you may know already, plenty of our citizens pass away on a regular basis. I would say we have one pass every single month or so, and this senior home has been in operation for a long time, since the 1950s. A lot of nurses have stories of hearing voices in empty rooms or lights turning on and off, along with the scariest of the stories I've heard when they actually see a lost senior citizen walking around that happens to disappear every time. I don't know if these stories are true, or just the veteran employees trying to scare us new nurses that work the night shift. I don't believe in the paranormal, so these stories weren't going to keep me from doing my job. I also have quite a bit of debt, so I really needed the work to begin paying off my bills. It was 10 p.m., all the citizens had been sleeping for a couple hours now. The wheelchair citizens were all in bed and would ring a bell if they needed assistance getting out of bed. At their age, most just use the bathroom in bed since they don't have the energy to go to the bathroom, which the cleaning team changes all bed sheets every single day. Around this time, I heard the squeak of a wheelchair heading down the hallway. I was a bit confused since all wheelchairs are maintained very well to avoid squeaking or damage by our handyman team that works every day at the senior home. I stood up and walked to the hall. I glanced down the end of the hall when I saw the back of a wheelchair turn the corner into the dining area. I didn't want to shout down the hall to avoid making noise and waking other people up, so I walked down the hall to the dining room to see who got out of bed alone with a wheelchair, which was almost impossible for all our current citizens. As I walked to the dining area, the light was still off. I flicked the light on and nobody was there. No wheelchair, no senior citizen, nobody. I stood there confused, wondering if this was the room I saw the person wheel themselves into, but it was, and there was no sign of anybody being here. I began to realize the stories from the veteran nurses were indeed real. I had my first experience this night, which made the hair on my body instantly turn into chills. I'd like to think I'm a bit brave and can handle anything this job throws at me. I'll continue working here since the pay is too good to find a new job. Have you ever worked a night shift job? From my experience, it can be either a complete drain of your energy, or if you manage to adjust to the night shift, it can be a calm, peaceful job that seems too easy to be true. I recently took a job as a security guard at a large paper mill that prints paper for the government around the world. Their paper is mainly used to print passports for their citizens. The last security guard had a large roll of paper fall down and smash his ankle completely, splitting his joint, causing full surgery with metal plates installed in his leg for the rest of his life. He is currently on medical leave, so I'm covering his shift for at least the next 6 months while he recovers. I spoke to him a few days ago. He told me he was standing at his desk as he saw a large roll of paper that had fallen over from the rack. These rolls weigh hundreds, even thousands of pounds depending on their size. He had attempted to move the roll using a large hand-operated forklift when the roll slipped off the side. His instinct was to grab the roll and stop it from falling as it smashed down on his ankle, completely destroying his bone. Luckily for him, he had his phone in his pocket, so was able to call 911 for an ambulance to come help. Once the ambulance arrived, they noticed they needed the fire department, as the roll was too heavy to remove from crushing his leg. It's been 2 months since working the night shift, and it was rather quiet night. I couldn't even hear the crickets chirping, and there was no wind. I heard a loud bang in the warehouse. I thought someone might be breaking in through a window, or something fell off the rack. I grabbed my flashlight and decided to go find what the noise was. I flicked on the shop lights that dimly lit up the warehouse as I walked down the hall, looking down each aisle to see if I could find what made the noise. I had gone through all the aisles and nothing was on the floor. I wasn't sure what made the loud noise as everything looked normal. At this moment, the door to my security office slammed shut. I got a bit scared and thought someone might be in the warehouse with me as I shouted, "Who's there? Leave the building or you will be arrested." This was more of a bluff, since I could feel my heart pounding in my chest as I wasn't armed and all I had was pepper spray and my flashlight. At this moment, the door to my office flung wide open as I stared at it. There was no wind, and nobody in sight to have caused that heavy wooden door to fly open, smashing into the wall. Once again, I heard the loud bang in the warehouse, sharply turning around, shining my flashlight as I could see nothing but rolls and rolls of paper lining the shelves. I freaked out and ditched my post. I ran to my car and called my boss. I told him someone or something is in the warehouse as the doors are slamming and loud bangs are coming from the warehouse. My boss stayed silent for a minute and said, "Don't worry, John, there's nobody in the warehouse. Every night shift employee reports noises and doors slamming, along with lights turning on and off, but nothing bad has ever happened." I stood there in silence with no response available to my boss. I told him I can't do this, that I'm leaving home and no way in hell am I going back into my office. My boss, in a sleepy, groaning voice, told me, "You're a grown man, do as you please," in a rather angry tone. I have a new job lined up in a few weeks and decided to quit my night shift job since I don't see myself sitting in this huge dark building another 2 weeks alone. I'll start off by saying I'm not in the military. I work the entrance to the military base with my coworker. We work for a private security company hired by the government to guard the entrance of the military base. The base is called Port Hueneme. It's located along the ocean in Southern California. It's basically a small city within the gates of the base. They have a full residential area with over 100 family homes, a movie theater, gas station, and restaurants. The military members that live on site are the high-level officers and ranked soldiers that are paid to live on base and work around the clock day and night. I have no idea what goes on in this military base since we aren't allowed to go inside. We only check that all people entering have the proper clearance cards to enter the base. There is a really good surf spot that only those living here and those who have access are allowed to visit. You occasionally get a local military member along with a surfer friend entering the base to go surf the waves in the back, which is a world-class wave that creates amazing round barrels when the swell is strong. Once a year, the base opens to the local public and they have surf competitions, then close for the rest of the year, only allowing those with clearance in. It was another normal night. I was sitting in the office alongside my coworker who took care of the right entrance lane, while I was set up on the left side of the entrance. At this point, a large military vehicle was pulling up in a convoy. They all slowed down as they arrived at the entrance. The first main vehicle was a regular officer we recognized, so we didn't even check his ID as he waved him past the entrance. The next two vehicles were luxurious body-armored vehicles, the large Suburban that are used by politicians in their convoys around the city. My coworker had to check their clearance before allowing them in. The driver flashed him ID, and my coworker took a peek in the back door to make sure all was clear. He glanced inside and stood there for a few seconds just staring. The vehicles all passed clearance and entered the base one after another. My coworker, in silence, just staring into thin air, sits down and just stares at the floor. He looked scared, or if he was in shock of what he saw. I walked over and said, "You okay? You feeling sick?" He sat there silently. A few seconds later, looks at me in the eyes and says, "Did you see that?" I said, "No, see what?" He looked back at the ground and sat there silently. I stood there confused as to what he was talking about when we heard a knock while two men approached our guard door. They flashed government badges and both stood around 7 feet tall. These guys were huge, wearing black suits. They were in the private vehicles that had just entered. They instantly pulled out handcuffs and told my coworker he was going with them. My coworker said, "What? Wait," as they handcuffed him and walked him into the base. I freaked out and called my boss. I told him what just happened and that they took my coworker into the base. My boss sat silent on the phone and said, "Don't worry, just continue doing your job. He'll be taken care of."